In this video, we go from this 2D version of my logo to this 3D version. And this is pretty nice. There's even an animation to it, so be sure to stick around to the end of the video because I go through the whole modeling process. It's all sped up of going from 2D to 3D. You'll see eventually what it looks like in Twinmotion at the end and how we ultimately get this result, which is really great and I'm excited for it. So stick around to the end. But in this video, we're going to do something a bit different. And I'm going to take my logo, which is just 2D vector data. I'm going to bring this into Rhino, which I've already done, but then make this into a 3D model. Maybe do a little more fun stuff with Twinmotion in an attempt to make a kind of a 3D image GIF type of video thing, something like that. So we will get there eventually, but it's going to be a different type of video in that I'm just going to work through it. I'm going to power through it. I'm going to speed this up. So it ought to be quick for you, not as quick for me, but that's okay. I will see you when I'm done modeling this, and we'll start to take it into Twinmotion and see what we can do, frame a specific shot, and I'll show you exactly why I'm doing this and what it will be for. And we can get an idea of what to expect at that point. So if at any point in this video you happen to maybe learn something or just enjoy this, you're probably more likely to just enjoy this video, but we'll see down the line, maybe when we get to Twinmotion, there'll be something to learn. So please demolish that like button. It really helps me out a lot. Also, consider subscribing if you do enjoy these kind of content. So I will see you on the other side. Let's get to work. And wardrobe change. Yeah, it happens. I decided to go with green instead of blue today, so let's get back to it. All right, I am fairly pleased with this from at least a starting point. Now, what I've done with the grasshopper is I can easily come back in here, and because this is set up the way that it is, all I would really need to do is edit all of these endpoints for these different facets, different faces, and just rebake everything onto the layers, and that's it. So very good. The only thing that is, I guess you could call it static or apart from grasshopper, is these insets here, and we can adjust those as we need to as well. So I'm going to export these three parts of the model. I've got the A, the V, and these inserts, and this will be our starting point, and we will then take this into Twinmotion. Okay. Okay, and if you can't tell what I'm doing more of a, I guess the closest thing might be somewhat of a product visualization, as if this were a product, that is. Obviously, this is my logo, but what I want to do is somehow frame this in a way to where it's emphasizing the logo, and I don't have any external sources. I'm not going to deal with atmosphere, sun, any of that. I'm going to basically make this its own self-contained thing without the atmosphere or anything. All the lights I have will be something I either add myself or make some sort of an emissive material, something like that. We'll get there, but at this point I've got like a nice backdrop and everything, and I want to frame this in such a way to where I can continually go to the frame, or at least the shot. So let's go to the images, and I'll make an image. And what I want to do for sure is make sure I have my camera aligned to this back flat face, because I want this to maintain, or at least start with being perfectly parallel. So I'm going to use this camera line tool to just align there. And you can see that as I press and hold the middle mouse button, this is the type of effect that I want. I want to be able to zoom in here and see this exactly straight on, or something close to that, as if I were to once we'll get to animating, and the animation might do something like spin around, or I don't know, but I at least want to start with this flat surface here. So even clicking in the middle is going to give me something close to the middle, but I can always move this with the middle mouse button. So this is a great starting point. And so with this, I want to make sure that I have that, and that's again a good place to start. So I'll just go back to my image and then update this, obviously rename this whatever you want to do. It may not ultimately be an image, so what I probably want to do also is come to video, and I just want to make sure that I have everything set up here. So this is nice and set up. It's basically aligned to the same camera now that I've aligned it to the image. And so with that, I have both of those set up, and I'm good to continue going. Obviously, what I need to work on next is dealing with the atmosphere, getting that out, because I basically want this to be 100% pitch black. And obviously at that point, I'll know the atmosphere is gone, because it will be 100% pitch black. I don't want to do that with exposure, because I actually want to have my own lighting that comes into play. And if I were to just affect the exposure, then I would lose all of that lighting that I'm adding, because obviously I can make everything black, but the exposure is gone. So I don't want to do that at all. So obviously what I can do is I can start affecting some of the sun. Bringing the sun down will basically take care of everything. Same with the ambient, the moon, like all of this. So make sure all of this is, I want to make sure auto exposure is off, because this will start to come into play when I add my own lights. I want to actually affect the lights themselves and not have to deal with this auto exposure on and off kind of thing. So leaving this off will mean that I can get the true light value of each of the lights I end up adding. So that's perfect. So with all of this, basically you're never going to see another video like this again, probably from me, just because this is so specific. And a lot of times what I'm needing is all the weather, all of the lighting, all the atmosphere, everything like that. So there's a lot here. We can decide if we want to use parallelism. My guess is I don't, because I want to get some more of that perspective in the 3D elements. So that kind of a thing, we can deal with all of that a bit later on. But as of right now, this is pretty good. And it's good because it's pitch black, and I don't have really any influence from, at least to my knowledge, of any sort of sun, anything like that. I'll just make sure that I have no background, not that that matters, but you get the idea of what we're trying to do here. I can make this, it shouldn't matter what time of day it is, which is the good part. I don't have to worry about that. So with that said, I am now going to get back to actually not media mode, because I want to be able to see what I'm doing, but clearly I have different settings here so I can see what I'm doing. But now let's start to get some of the more interesting aspects of this into play, whether it's, lights or whatnot. So let's go ahead and do that. I haven't decided the direction I'm going to go, whether I want things to be lit up with lights or if I want to go the emissive route. We will see, but let's play with the lights. And you'll see as I come into here, I can see, all right, this is starting to look like I want. And obviously I want this a bit more centered. So cool. I want to probably extend the light past the point where I have my camera sitting. Not that that matters, just so that the light's behind me continuing in, things like that. So if you've seen what I've been doing, I've been looking at these different Kelvin values and changing them in, because I want something closer to white. And depending on which one you look at, it might tell you something like 6,000 or 10,000 or maybe even 12. Obviously you can see in here, it's based on the lighting, the natural lighting of outside, based on, the sun. So 6,000 here, it's just in response to that. So 6,000 appears to be what I would think is whiter, and then obviously we get more blue as we go higher. So take this with a grain of salt, in that you can see as I update this for this light, we're going to get different values. So I have it at 10,000 now, and it looks pretty white, but if I put it at 6,000, it looks less white. So what I want to do is probably put it closer to 10,000, but I want to, this combined with one other thing I will show you here is if I come into the image and the camera, I've got visual effects and color gradient, and here I can change the saturation. Now, I do want a mostly, let's call it grayscale image. So I can achieve that through bringing the RGB value all the way, the saturation down all the way to 0. And so it's black and white. And so the idea here is if I have this at, let's say a base of 50%, and I bring this down to 0, I would have, if the color tone does not change, that means I would have received a proper white with my Kelvin value. Now, obviously you can see I have not whenever I bring this down to 0. That's fine. And so the reason I'm doing this is I do want it closer to white, closer to gray, because I don't want a bunch of color, like I don't want this warm effect. It's basically whites and grays that I'm working with. So I do actually want to put this closer to 10,000 because I had more luck with that. I want to keep my RGB values, my saturation, above 0 because I do want to maintain some color if I do want to add color. But this is looking a little better. Maybe I put this at 25%. So I like this a lot because it's looking mostly white. So that's very good. At least that's a good start. Okay, so let's continue. Obviously, the goal here is to get a logo, and I need to move the light around a bit, maybe to light up different areas, things like that. I will continue to work with this, and then we'll move into more of the animation. Because actually, while I'm talking, I'll show you what the application of this, because it might not be what you expect. So the application for this is essentially just a background, a backdrop, whatever, for a website, but also it's kind of my personal business card in a sense that I'll send this link out, and this link will include this as a backdrop with all the links and information about myself and Architecture Vanguard, that type of thing. So there's a ton of these types of things, but I want to show you this is just the very beginnings of it. And this is called Koji. And it's basically just a way where you can have a bunch of different links show up on this page. And it happens to be that this is a vertical page. And the cool thing here is I can put like a picture or a GIF as a background. Obviously, I can just put any one of these basic backgrounds, which is nice if you want to use something like this. This is really cool. And then at this point, I would have links that show up, or basically take you somewhere else. So regardless, I want it to be custom. I want to do it myself, and I don't want to use a video that they've necessarily included here. This looks good, but I want to use my own. So point being, this is what we're working with. I'm working to create a background video, I guess, of essentially my logo. So that's what we're working with. Then this is the application. So let's look into this a bit further, because I do want to actually show you how to get the information out of here as far as like the resolution that you want to do. So if you've accidentally pressed this button a lot, you might wonder why, but pressing F12 will open this inspect. And this is basically just inspecting all of the website contents. If I can press F12 to hide it, I can also right click something and then click on inspect here, because I want to inspect this element. It will actually take me directly to the element, which is cool. And as you can see, as I highlight and move my mouse over these things, different elements of the website are now visible and are highlighted and giving me an idea of where that particular element is in the hierarchy of the website code. All of that to say, we don't need to edit the code or change any of the code, but I want to use this to determine what my resolution of this is, because I haven't found what that is exactly in Koji itself, in this program, in this website. So what I can do is I can find any one of these elements. This is great here, because as I highlight one of these, I can see that it's pointing to one of these actual elements, but I could see the resolution at the top right here, which is really cool. Now, part of the problem here is I can't see all of it. That's a bit better. So I can see, yeah, there's my resolution. Because I'm in a compressed area for this video, this isn't the true resolution, but nonetheless, this is the type of information that you want to see and want to use to determine if what the actual resolution is for a particular element. Now, hopefully, if you're using any other sort of program, it's going to tell you what to use, if nothing else, as far as an aspect ratio. So I'm trying to achieve this aspect ratio. And so at this point, I'm going to go back to Twinmotion and take this information and include that in my resolution as a custom resolution. So just looking at my other monitor, I can see that this happens to be 502 by 925 or something, whatever. So I'll probably do 503 by 925, 926, and maybe even double that. So I have more of a high quality resolution to work with. So at that point, I will now come into my image, and we can go to my format, and I can change this to custom, because I want to actually change the height and width myself to be this vertical element that will work appropriately with this website. So let's do that. So I actually want to hide this plane, not only the plane, but I probably want to get an idea of where the extents of my actual scene is now, right? The extents of my shot, my output size. So I am going to temporarily adjust this so I can actually see this. So I will bring the sun intensity up, and I can easily do that by bringing the exposure up. I can see, oh, look, there's my edge. It's perfectly framed here in the shot, which is wonderful, which means I probably need to do some sort of zooming in to the actual logo, that type of thing. So that's easy enough. All right, I am finally at the point where we can talk through this. So what I have here is a blinking eyes or whatever, and this is a bit too fast, but I've left it at 1 to show you that 1 is basically 1 blink a second. Now I'm making probably like a 10-second clip that's going to just end up looping, or at least looking like it's going to loop. So what can I do here? I want this to be more like 0.2, which means that across the 10 seconds, I'm going to get not 10 blinks, but I'll be getting less blinks, basically 5 times less. So in the 10 seconds, I'll get like a full 2 blinks, like on and off, which that's great. And because it's looping, that'll be totally fine. So this looks good. I'm going to now come back to my, not necessarily image, but here's my image, looking okay, looking pretty good. Turning the render off allows me to see the blink. Cool. So back into video, I can say, well, I mean, it's 10 seconds. It's good. I don't need to do any kind of fade in, fade out, nothing like that, because I want all of it to stay the same. I want the ambiance to stay the same. Nothing like that's going to change. So I don't need multiple parts. I don't need anything like that. So what I'm going to do, I mean, you can see here, obviously I'm going to have the path tracer on when I do this, so I get this kind of a quality, but with the blink. So I'm going to rename this, export this, and we'll take a look, and then I'll eventually apply it to that Koji and have a link that you can take a look at it as well. And with these exporting, we will be right back when they're done. Hopefully less than an hour. Jeez. All right, and it is finally done exporting. It didn't take too long. Needed to reset some settings, things like that. But let's look at it. Cool. And you can see what we have is a nice effect on the glow, the red glow, fading in and out. And it's cool. We're good. That's great. And so I'm going to put this full video actually linked into the end of the video here in just a second. But yeah, that was quite the journey. We took our first 2D model, 2D rendering, 2D logo, and took that, made it into a 3D model, brought it in Twinmotion, did it all up nice and whatever, threw some effects on, and now we have essentially a 3D version. And so what I'm going to do now is take this over to Koji, and obviously this would work for any sort of platform that would have that portrait mode, but I'm going to take this over to Koji and probably end up making a video in the near future showing you what that looks like once it's fully worked out, because what I want to do is not only show you the logos there, and this is just the photo version, but I want to actually show you what this Koji profile looks like and what it does, because it's pretty cool, and it would apply to really any architect. But let's go ahead and upload our video here. It's going to be this one, and once this is uploaded, we can get an idea of what it looks like, and that's something I definitely want to see. Sweet. And look at that. That is essentially what I want. There might be some recentering that I need to do because it's not quite centered, and I don't know if that's my desktop or whatever it is, but regardless, it's doing exactly what I want. So be sure to stick around for a future video on what this ultimately is, what it looks like, what it has. And once that's done, definitely be sure to look out for a link for this, because it'll have all the information that you need for me. But besides that, this is pretty cool. You know, it's something that you can do in Twinmotion. Take a 2D, make it 3D, and then make some sort of effect like this. So I hope you got something good and learned something from this video, because we covered a lot. I know it was sped up quite a bit, but we covered a lot. We experimented. There's a lot of experimenting, trial and errors along the way. Of course, that's how you figure things out. So if you did end up learning something or just liking the video, please demolish that like button. Helps me out very much. Also consider subscribing. That does as well. And I will see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day, and thank you very much for watching.